Over the years, I have to admit I've usually been more interested in dream landscapes or abstract forms in filmmaking. But there is one story I think about a lot. It begins in a time I have to imagine, when my mother and father were teenagers in 1959. After the scandal of my birth, they kept in touch for a while, almost in secret. Then went their separate ways and never saw each other again. I often hoped I'd find that footage.
You don't seem the kind that'd hunt a man for money.
I am.
After 2 years, my mother left town. She had lost her job, friends weren't allowed to associate with her, and people would talk. So a new birth certificate was drawn up, with my grandparents as my parents, and my mother as my sister. And that was how I always knew them through my childhood. Growing up in the suburb of red houses, the outside world and my home world began to diverge. And I was never sure why I called my mother Gran, and she didn't object. My parents seemed so old. Proud of the house and garden, but with no visitors. They'd sit and reflect on other times and other places. My great-grandfather was killed in 1918. His wife left for New Orleans, leaving their son to be adopted. She used to write and send presents, but these were burned unopened. No one knows what became of her. The 1930s was the time of the black shirt movement. Then marriage, the Air Force, rationing. They lived carefully. In 1955 they left England. I think Gran saw Australia as a chance to rise to the middle class. I can still picture them, far from home. Try and try again. When I finished school, my sister told me officially that I was her son. I'd guessed years before, but said nothing. She laughed and said they'd been so worried about telling me. Then she gave me the only photo she had of my father. It was such a strong image, quite mythic, with all its strange inscriptions on the back. And in faint pencil, the old address.
I waited for him in the streets, but he never showed.
But I never looked for him.
It was a long time ago. Probably forgotten about it now.
I never thought of him as a real person. By my 20s, the story was forgotten, and I moved out of town. But in my early 30s, I returned to make a film.
Better hold on to that shovel, Red.
One evening, a man phoned up, asking about a short film his aunt had seen at a festival. He wanted to see it. "Do you know who this is?" the voice said. His daughters were grown up now, and his business was going poorly. He reminisced about his days on the folk singing circuit, and talked mainly of other times and other places. He was glad we'd found each other, but there were so many years missing since that photo was taken. And after a while, the gaps between meetings or letters grew longer. And I didn't hear from him for quite some time. I often wish we'd met at a time when things were better for both of us. After all, the entire time we knew each other, I was on the dole and he was going under in business. But then the time was never right for us.